Welcome to I call it our social media state of the union. That's not really what we call it publicly, but that's what I call it in my head. But every month we come here and I give a great update on all of the social media updates that you guys need to know. So let's dive right in and get started. Just for anyone who has not been to one of these before, what we're going to cover today, I'm going to go over any content creation tips or strategy tips that have been shared by the platforms, by the heads of the platforms, anything that I've been able to collect that I think would be helpful. I'm going to condense and start there. Then I'm going to give you any platform changes and updates, including stuff that's being tested right now, just so you can kind of keep it in mind for your strategy and what you might want to be doing with your content going forward. And then at the very end, my favorite part of the entire presentation, my favorite segment, is our 4 trending videos. So I pulled 4 easy video types. I make sure that they're not that hard to film. They're not that hard to come up with something creative. And I give you 4 different videos that you can then recreate for your strategy. And that gives you 1 video a week if you want to use it that way. So let's say you post something fun on Fridays. That means you have 4 videos that you can recreate, 1 per Friday, and that'll get you all the way to next month. So hopefully that's nice and exciting for everyone. And if you need a content idea after today's presentation, I would highly recommend sharing anything that you found valuable from this session. You're welcome to tag us. You can share a learning, your favorite tip, but I think it's a great way to post something on LinkedIn, and that way you feel like, yay, I learned something new and I already posted today. So you knock out 2 birds, 1 stone, which is nice and easy. And for anyone who doesn't know, which most people here probably do, but we're Social Coach. Our platform is designed to make social selling simple for both individuals and enterprise teams. So we do video scripts and editing. We have automated content scheduling. We do a lot of campaigns and scheduling and randomization, which I know a couple people on this call, like Camilla, are amazing at using. And we also have built-in compliance controls, which I know is a big win for highly regulated industries like ours. So if you have any questions about our services, about what we do, how we make it easy, would love to chat more about that, and feel free to drop it in the chat. Okay, let's get right into it. So the latest content tips. First and foremost, I'm actually going to start with a poll today. So if anyone would like to comment or put in the chat, what platform do you post to the most? This could be personally, this could be for your team or your company, kind of a general. And then also I want to know, which platform do you spend the most time on? And I'm curious to see if those are the same or if they're different. Social Coach, Camilla, I love you. Thank you. Correct answer. Yes, but if there's a social platform in general, I agree. If you're using Social Coach to auto post to every platform for you, I totally agree. Like Social Coach is probably where you spend the most of your time instead of on the individual platforms. But I'm curious to see where everyone else, let's see. Otherwise, Facebook for Camilla, that makes sense. Jessica, Instagram post, but forwards to Facebook, but you spend your time on TikTok. Interesting. Okay, that's a pattern I want to pay attention to, because I think that's what we're going to see here. Tiffany, Instagram. So it looks like maybe Instagram for both. Interesting. But keep that coming in the chat if you are. I'm just curious, because I think what we're going to talk about here is this dichotomy. So if you can see on this graph, the most popular social networks worldwide as of February of this year by monthly active users in the millions. So by the way, this says 3,000, but it's actually 3,000 million or whatever. So Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram are the top. They have the most active users. Then we get TikTok. I'm skipping WhatsApp because, not really a social platform. But then we have TikTok. And then interestingly, LinkedIn doesn't even make the list, right? And that's just in terms of the most active users. So of these, where do we think people are actually spending the most time? This is showing us active users, but do we have any guesses on where this is actually people are spending more time on these platforms? I saw Alan said YouTube, but that might have been where he spends time. Camilla's guessing TikTok. Correct. If anyone else wants to drop a guess before I go to the next slide, now's your time. But yes, so what you'll notice here is the platforms that have the most active users. This is what I think a lot of people focus on when they're coming up with their content, right? They're going, ooh, well, I use Facebook and most of my audience, I think, uses Facebook. So I'm going to go all in on my strategy on Facebook. And that is not a bad strategy, by the way. I just want to emphasize, like, that makes sense. But there's an added element here of, okay, if I'm prioritizing Facebook, or some people are like, ooh, LinkedIn. I get a lot of really good engagement on LinkedIn. People talk to me on LinkedIn. I know that this works for me. Well, the interesting thing is, I want you to now, we're going to go to the next slide here, and I now want to emphasize the amount of time people spend on each app. And just so everyone knows, this data is actually from last year. So this is older data, but I think that this pattern probably has continued, if not gotten even worse. Because if you'll notice, the time spent using social media apps, TikTok is leading by a mile. Okay. So YouTube, people are spending about, if I can read this correctly, about 28 hours, it looks like. Whereas on TikTok, they're spending 34 hours, and this is per month, right? Because yeah, there's not more than 35 hours in a day, right? There's 24 hours, but so 35 hours per month on TikTok, and that's a little less than 10 hours more, right, than the next platform, which is YouTube. So to me, this just was a really interesting dichotomy to see these two things, to say, okay, most people are spending their time posting to Facebook, to LinkedIn, to Instagram. But the place that people are spending the most time are actually TikTok, YouTube, and then Facebook. So I just want you to absorb that, because especially with loan officers, which I do understand this, we're in a highly regulated industry, banks get nervous, but so many people are not on TikTok and are at the very least not posting to TikTok. And to me, it's like if you are making carousels, which are the multi-slide images, right, that you scroll through, if you are making video content, you should just be posting it to TikTok. Make a quick account, throw it out there, see what happens, because the worst thing is you're getting more views, right? Even if you get 20 more views on each video, okay, great, that's more people. But this is where people are spending the majority of their time. So we notice with our social coach data that a lot of people post to Facebook, post to Instagram, but they don't post to TikTok. I think only like 10% of our users actually post to TikTok. And I think that that's wild. So I wanted to just pull up this data here to show everyone, if you're not on TikTok, I know it can feel scary, but I think it's really worth it, because this is where people are spending their time, especially people under 35, right? So this is a demographic, the first-time home buyers or the people coming into first-time home buying. You want to be there, you want to be educating them, you want to capture their attention. This is where they are. So again, this doesn't mean that Instagram isn't worth your time, by the way. I think that this Instagram number probably has gone up a lot in the last year because of Reels. I think they introduced that and it's gained a lot of traction after TikTok, and with all the kind of TikTok uncertainty, which trust me, we'll get to in the platform update section. But with all that, Instagram, I think, is probably up there. But it's just interesting to see that TikTok and YouTube, if you're not posting there and you have video content, definitely add that to your docket, because I think that's going to be a big deal. And really, I also just wanted to point out that LinkedIn is down here at the very bottom. People spend less than an hour per month on LinkedIn. To me, that's insane. And that's not to say, again, if LinkedIn is working for you, if you're posting, you're like, I get leads, I get engagement, awesome. But what I hear a lot of people say is they're like, well, I post a lot on LinkedIn and I get a lot of engagement, but it's often from the exact same people. And it kind of turns into an echo chamber. I'm like, well, this is kind of why. Because most people are spending less than an hour on LinkedIn a month. And the people who are spending more than that, great, they're there, but it's usually the same people. So just a good note there. If this shifts your strategy at all in terms of what you want to focus on, that's a really interesting thing. And yeah, Alan, the average age of first-time buyers at the moment is 39. Totally agree with you there. That's where I think the Facebook, YouTube, that's coming in as well. But I think that TikTok is really valuable because it's not just people under 35, right? There are people on TikTok who are older than that. But my thing here is if you want to start educating that group before they're ready, right? If you want to be the person who gets their foot in the door with these people as they're starting to be like, ooh, I got to build good habits. I don't really know how to get into home ownership. Like, take me, I'm 28, right? I would love to buy a home at one point. I live in California. This feels pretty impossible for me right now. And I say this every time, and then people are like, hey, DM me, I'll help you figure it out. And I'm like, I love you. I appreciate you. I will get there eventually, right? But if you are the person where you're posting content that makes me go, ooh, okay, this might be more possible for me than I think. You're teaching me about all these loan options. You're teaching me strategies. You're telling me, hey, once you have 30K in the bank, come talk to me and we'll figure out down payment options or whatever. And I'm throwing numbers out there, you guys. So I know it's not always accurate, but if you're that person on TikTok who's being consistent and I'm following you, I might not even go reach out to other lenders and do research. I might just message you and be like, hey, I really would like that consultation you're always talking about. Can we jump on for 30 minutes? Can you tell me what my next step is? Right? So that's where I think TikTok is just a big untapped potential. Odds are you're creating your video content already. You're putting that on Facebook. You're putting it on LinkedIn. All good things. I just think a lot of people are skipping TikTok because it feels uncomfortable. It feels new. And so this is just what I wanted to emphasize. There's so much untapped potential that I would love to see more people take advantage of. But that is not to shame anything you're doing. That is not to say don't post to Facebook or don't post to LinkedIn. I'm just saying add in TikTok. There's a lot of potential there. And, I'm kind of previewing my next slide, but this is my point. You should be on TikTok. If you're not and you already have the content, put it out there, see what happens, right? So nearly 70% of TikTok's user base is under 35, which, as Alan pointed out, is slightly below that first-time homebuyer age. But what that means to me is that that is all the people who are preparing for that eventuality, right? This is all the people who you want to be educating. So maybe they're not exactly there. But the other thing I really want to emphasize here is that this data point, which I think it's actually on my next slide, but there's how-to content that earns the highest completion and share rates, right? 62% of TikTok users say that tutorials are actually their favorite kind of video. So that's huge. That's huge for you guys. If you can say, here's how to get pre-qualified, here's how to get pre-approved. Let me walk you through what a mortgage application actually looks like, what you need for it. It's a lot of that kind of, I want to see what's happening before I have to go through it so I know what to expect. That's what people really love to see. And especially if you can help deliver results, right? If you're like, here's how to save thousands on your mortgage, here's how to know when it's time to refinance, all these things that I know you guys share content about, this does really well on TikTok. And if you can find a way to make it entertaining as well, then you've struck gold, right? That's the best way to do it. So they also really like product and service reviews. They also really like personal stories. So this is kind of your area. It doesn't have to be super formal and professional. It can be a lot more casual. It can be like, hey, I'm going to pretend like you just walked into my office. Here's how I would treat you as a client. Let me walk through it in detail, right? You can be casual about it. People really like that. They appreciate it. But getting to see that kind of behind the scenes insider type content, I think really changes the game for people. It doesn't feel polished. It doesn't feel like you're selling me something. It feels like, hey, my buddy Mike jumped on TikTok and is walking me through exactly what I need to know as if he was my dad, right? If my dad was a mortgage loan officer, this is how he'd treat me. That's how I would want Mike to walk me through stuff, right? So it feels personal. It feels like I can trust you. And this is the part that I really want to emphasize, TikTok is 150% more effective at getting users to try something new, whether that's a product or a service. Partly, right, that's TikTok Shop. We've all seen it. You click on one thing, you get ads for the next hour, whatever. They're really good at it though. And I think a lot of people like to go there to find services, I don't know, has anyone here looked up restaurants near me, fun things to do near me? I see all these accounts. I live in Orange County and there's always like everything you need to know that's happening over the weekend in Orange County. I follow those all the time because I learn new things. I like to find those local things. You guys could be creating that content, right? Be the person who's like, hey, if you didn't know about these cool things, even loan programs, right? Could be something more business related, could not. But that stuff's really effective and it can introduce people to you as a service provider, as a person in the community, and that can be really effective. But the thing I really, really, really wanted to emphasize, users are twice as likely to recommend a product that they saw on TikTok than anywhere else. Your loan programs could be that product, right? So if the behavior on TikTok is, ooh, I saw this thing, I really like this, I am so much more likely to share this with somebody. This could be your referral hub, right? This is now the place that you can go and people are already trained on that behavior of sharing. On LinkedIn, maybe you repost something every once in a while, right? Maybe you send somebody a job listing that you think they'd be good at, but you're not really taking a LinkedIn post and emailing it to your whole team being like, everybody read this, right? Every once in a while, sure. But most of the time, that's not the behavior. But on TikTok, it's so easy to just copy the link, send it to somebody, and it's a trained behavior. So I just think if you can really capitalize on that aspect of TikTok, you could get a lot more referrals. If you're saying, hey, send this to your parents if they don't know if they should refinance or not, or hey, rates just dropped. If anyone you know is in this specific situation, send them this video. They need to know this, right? Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't own a home. I'm in an apartment. I don't need this information, but I bet I have friends, parents, family members, the group chat, right? The whole family group chat probably could use this info. That's where you want to be targeting. And I think that's something we forget a lot, right? People are like, oh, well, my audience isn't on those platforms. It's a lot younger. I'm like, okay, but they're the ones who do still disseminate that information. They take it to their grandparents, to their parents. They're like, hey, I think I found something useful. Now, right, are 13-year-olds looking at mortgage content? Probably not. That's not what I'm saying. But people like me who maybe are on the verge of kind of looking at that first-time homebuyer era, we absolutely are. And we're sending it to all our friends in different life stages who are looking for that advice. Okay. So now that I'm going to get off my TikTok pedestal because I just think it's a very undertapped resource. But if you don't want to do it, I totally feel you. It's okay. But just wanted to put that all there. Mike, my reverse customers are mostly on Facebook and YouTube. Their kids are on Instagram mostly. I'm solving problems for seniors, and I think that's an important aspect to consider when choosing the medium. I fully agree with you there. All of the platforms have specific audiences that work. I think my biggest thing with TikTok is I just hear a lot of resistance because people think that the audience is so young, it's not worth it. So that's kind of where I wanted to emphasize a lot of that. I think, yes, reverse mortgages and all that other stuff, Facebook, YouTube, that's all going to be your bread and butter. But if you're not just cross posting that, even like you might as well put it over on TikTok if you've already created it, right? Just see how it does. If it doesn't do that well, okay, no harm, no foul. But especially with stuff you've already created, I just think I see a lot of people just going, oh, I don't want to do it. And especially if you're on Social Coach, we automatically post to all the platforms at once for you, right? So just add TikTok to it. Boom. You don't even have to ever open the app, but you can see, okay, my content's going out, it's getting more views. And TikTok has a really big potential for growth. Or at least views, right? Any video could blow up at any point. So I just think that's a really valuable thing to be tapping into. But I definitely agree with you. Know your platform, know your audience. And for reverse, I'm like, even LinkedIn might be a good place because there's a lot of people on there who care about investing and all of that. Would you say that TikTok requires feedback when they respond? I would definitely advise that. Yes. So if you're getting comments on TikTok, TikTok actually has a lot of features in platform that make it really easy to respond right away. So if you see a comment that someone has, you can actually just click the comment and make a video response to it right there. So that can be a little stressful. I know not everyone loves that, but I think it's kind of cool to make it more casual and authentic that way. And you guys are such experts at this that I don't think you need a script, right? You don't have to go through the whole, I'm going to write a script, use a teleprompter, film it, edit it, post it. If someone's like, hey, I don't really understand the difference between pre-approval and pre-qualification, you pull that phone up and you go, let me break it down. Here's the difference. Boom, boom. I break this down for clients all the time. Call me if you're confused. We'll figure this out, right? That's easy, and you might get more engagement than you think. But at the very least, it's more exposure. And that's the big thing too, right? The more platforms you post to, the more people see your content, the better it is for you. So, all right, please keep those questions coming though in the chat or anywhere else. I'm going to move on to a slightly different content tip. This one, I'm going to caveat, don't let this stress you out, okay? But data has shown, more recently especially, that the more you post, the faster you grow. And I know everyone's gonna be like, well, duh. But I think that this was really important because this emphasized that this works for both big and small accounts. So both accounts that are sub 1,000, accounts that are 10,000 followers plus, right? So this works no matter your size. But they noticed that there was a major difference that when you went from posting only once or twice a week and jumped up to posting 2 to 5 times a week, for LinkedIn, that grew impressions by almost 1,000 impressions per post. So for every post, 1,000 more people are getting to see it just because you posted a few more times. And especially on LinkedIn, I feel like I've noticed this, the people who post pretty much daily, their stuff always gets comments, it always gets impressions because they're just there all the time. So I typically, especially for my individual loan officers who are like, this feels like a full-time job and I don't want to have to do this all the time, I don't want you to feel like you have to post every single day to be successful. That is not my point here. My point is that if you really want to grow and you want to see results, posting more than once or twice a week is going to really drive results for you. Whatever platform you choose, that works too. But just wanted to put some numbers up here that show you kind of that exponential growth that can happen when you're just more consistent. Now, last month, I did share a segment on consistency and why consistency is important. And this same platform, Buffer, they did another study that shows that if you only post once a week, but you do it for 20 weeks straight, that's only 20 posts, but if you do it for 20 weeks straight, your engagement goes up by 450%. So if you're only posting once a week, that is not bad, okay? That is still good. You still increase your engagement by being consistent. But if you want growth, what they saw is that 2 to 5 times per week is going to win you more growth and a lot faster, right? And then again, if you up it to 10 times a week, if you're posting 11 times a week, which feels insane, but it doesn't have to be something super elaborate every time, right? If you're posting, the more you post, the more obviously impressions you're getting, the more reach you're getting, but it also is getting you that engagement because the platforms do want to reward that behavior. On Instagram, they said that posting 3 to 5 times a week as opposed to once to twice can double your follower growth rate. So that doesn't mean double your followers, right? You're not going from 1,000 to 2,000, but it will double your growth rate. And a typical growth rate is usually between like 1 to 5%, right? So if you can double that, let's say you're usually growing your followers 2% per month, if you can double that to 4 just by posting a little more often, I think that is really valuable. And for you guys, you're going to start feeling that growth a lot more and a lot faster. So, and then TikTok, the posting frequency, they said that's ideal is 1 to 4 times a week. I would agree that I think above twice a week is probably where you're going to start seeing that growth, right? There's so many reasons for that. Happy to elaborate more. But I think a lot of that has to do with you're getting in the rhythm. You are more confident and you kind of understand what's going. You're putting a lot more out there. So it's easier for you to be able to see, oh, this is landing, this is working, or no one's really reacting to this. Okay, that wasn't good. So all of those things kind of compound into this. But mainly, this is also just based on reach, growth, and engagement, right? So it's just if you're doing it this many times, no matter what you're putting out, your numbers are going to go up. So I just thought that was really interesting and valuable to point out. Again, not to scare anyone into being like, oh my gosh, it's not worth it if I'm not posting 5 times a week. That's not true. Even once a week is great. It's consistent. But for those of you looking to level up and level up faster, this is what I would recommend, right? 2 to 5 times a week on all platforms as much as you can. If we have questions there, let me know in the chat. But I just thought that was a really interesting point. And coupled with this, right, consistency is the name of the game. Talked about it all last month. And that replay is on YouTube, by the way. If anyone missed last month and wants to go get it, there was a lot there that was really valuable. But not posting for a long time does hurt your reach, which we all know this, right? Everyone knows this. But I think it's really important to look at the data and to understand that when the heads of these platforms come out and acknowledge, like, yes, you need to be consistent. Consistency doesn't have to be 5 times a week every week. Consistency can be I'm posting twice a week minimum, but then if I have extra content, I'm doing more than that, right? So whatever consistency means to you, whatever you can keep up at an actual pace and create a plan for, that's what I want you to be doing. But I just don't want it to feel like, oh, well, if I'm only posting once a week, that doesn't do anything. That's not true. It does. But if you're leaving for long gaps, it makes me sad when people are like so gung-ho for like a month or two. They post 8 videos, they're doing so well, and then they get burned out and they don't have a plan in place. They just kind of were like going for it. And then they drop off for 3 months and then they try to come back. And then they're like, oh, no one's even seeing my stuff. This is not working. This is not worth it. And that's a bummer because that is not how social media works, right? It's all about staying connected, staying visible. So if you even post once a week and you do that for 5 months and then you're like, all right, I could up it to 2, then I can up it to 3. Now I can up it to 4. That's the way I would rather you work up to it because the more consistent you are, the better it's going to be. So just wanted to reemphasize that. Again, there was a lot more about that last month if you want, but those are the major content tips that have been shared this month. So now let's get into the actual platform changes and updates. So this is like the actual features and new things that are happening that you'll want to be thinking about and using in your content. Let's see, Camilla, it's like going to the gym. If you stop, you have to start from 0. Exactly. I actually had a ballet teacher who for years, he told me, he's like, for every day you miss in the studio, it takes you double that time to get back to where you were. So he was like, if you miss a week of dance, it's going to take you 2 weeks to be able to get back to the same technical skill level. And I don't think that's exactly the case with social media, right? I don't think it's double, but I agree with you that you are starting back from 0. Every time you lose that ground, it's harder and it feels like a bigger mountain to climb, right? When you come back and you're like, oh man. So if you can just stay consistent, even if it's a lower number of consistency, okay, I'm posting once a week or once every 2 weeks, start there and then work your way up. Way better than going hard, flaming out, and then you're just going to get in this cycle of, okay, I do all this and then it doesn't work, which is frustrating and hopefully isn't the case for most of us, right? Which is why Social Coach is here. We're here to make it nice and easy, to stay consistent, take some work off your plate, and I think that helps a lot of people go, oh, okay, this is a lot more doable. Well, let's see, Sarah. Oh, let's see. Alan is asking, should these videos be super short? How short? Ooh, okay, so I covered that last month as well. So studies show that on TikTok and Instagram, videos that are over 60 seconds actually get more engagement. So I would say for most videos, you want to keep it below 3 minutes maximum. I think a sweet spot is about 90 seconds, 60 to 90 seconds for most videos. I think that gives you just enough information for people to feel like it was valuable, but then there's still, it's not taking forever to get to your point because I'm not a concise person, as you guys have probably figured out. But if you want to condense it, you want to get it to like 60 to 90 seconds. But I will say that sometimes if you want more views, more like initial views in that push, short videos can do pretty well with that. Like 10 seconds. I wouldn't do like the 3 to 5 second videos very often. I think the platforms don't love those because they kind of know you made this super short, so it loops over and over, and they kind of can pick up that that's a little bit of a trick. But if you do a shorter video in between your long videos, those tend to get more views because it takes people less time to watch the whole video, right? So if someone spends 5 seconds on your video, but it's 90 seconds long, that's a pretty short amount of watch time. But if they spend 5 seconds on your video and it's a 10-second video, oh my gosh, you have a 50% watch time completion rate. That's pretty good. So the algorithm is going to push that out a lot quicker and a lot further. So what I would do is I would use those really short videos with maybe text on them or something short and easy, use those every once in a while to get kind of more views, then follow up with a couple educational, more in-depth niche videos that I think people will actually find that value in. And by mixing those up, you're going to kind of help yourself of, okay, I'm getting more views, but then I'm also getting the engagement and the conversions and the actual things I want from these videos, right? Because the views are great, but it might be a lot of people who don't need to buy a house and don't really care, right? So let's see. Sarah also said TikTok has different time requirements depending on your account. Agreed. Yes. So TikTok, you can actually go up to 10 minutes. You can do a 10-minute long video, which amazing. Some people, if it's a really good story, I will stick around for a good 10-minute story every once in a while. I would recommend 3 minutes or less typically. Unless you're doing something really, really in depth. Like if you've got a whiteboard behind you and you're doing a whole loan scenario, like numbers and going out, sure, take 10 minutes because some people will appreciate that and sit through it. But in general, 3 minutes or less are great. Reels, I think they're sticking to that 3 minutes or less as well. They are not going to extend to 10 minutes because they prefer short form content. So again, sweet spot, I would say, is between 30 to 90 seconds. If you want more like in-depth engagement, 60 to 90 seconds is actually proven to be better. And then for more views, those shorter, like 10 to 15 second videos can do well. Let's see, Mike, it might be important to also figure out why you aren't consistent. Yeah, like anything else, when you work off a list, you won't miss. I agree. A big thing I talk about in boot camp is creating a consistent schedule and a plan. If every week you're sitting there going, okay, I have to post things, I don't know what, but I have to post things, that feels so much harder than, oh, I have to post one thing about the market and one home buyer tip this week. Okay, by the end of the week, I just have to do those 2 things. It feels a lot easier. So I have a lot of tactics for that. If anyone hasn't gone through boot camp or wants to do it again, you're always welcome to. Next month's going to be our last round of boot camp for the year. And then we'll start it again in January. But love going through all of that and helping people create a plan because I agree with you. That's definitely required. Sarah, I haven't posted a TikTok since November and they sent me a notification that I can post 20-minute videos. Oh my gosh. I've never posted a video over 3 minutes. What would I do with 20 minutes? I feel you there. I think shorter is better, to be honest. Short attention spans. You got to really have something good if you're going to get me to sit there for 20 minutes. Occasionally, like I said, if you've got the whiteboard and you're walking through something really in depth, sure, go for it. But in general, I would stick to longer videos on YouTube. I think those tend to do a lot better because people go there for that kind of tutorial in-depth content. And I think good short teasers of that saying, hey, I did a whole walkthrough of a whole loan scenario. It's over on my YouTube if you want it. Link in bio, go get it. I think that's kind of a better way to handle that. So great questions there. Okay, actually getting into our platform updates now, you guys. Sorry, I'm chatty today, but I'm loving all the interaction and the questions. So please keep them coming. So Instagram announced that they had an accidental glitch where if you posted more than one story in a day, they were accidentally kind of capping or limiting those extra stories. So the first story would do pretty well. You'd have pretty high views. It'd get pushed out. But then every post after that on your story, it would tank and it would go down and down and down. So really exciting news that that's not going to be happening anymore. They fixed it. Now, that is not to say, right, a lot of people still will drop off, right? They'll still kind of watch 2 of your stories and then they're like, oh, there's 5 more, never mind, and they'll exit out. That does happen, right? But in general, they were doing it. There was some sort of glitch that was just causing that to happen more often than really was happening. So this way, it's not going to be limited and you can post as much on your stories as you want. I know people who love to post like 20 stories a day. I love that for you. I watch them all. It's great. But just wanted to give everyone an update there that don't be afraid to post more things on your story now because they're not going to be capping that. So that was a fun little update. Also, they brought this back. So for anyone who remembers, you used to be able to pin your own comments on Instagram, and then they took it away. And everyone was like, why did you do that? And now they brought it back. But the reason this is really helpful and important, and the way I would use this if I were you, and the way we use it here at Social Coach, is you can use this to drive additional engagement in your comment section. So if you want to comment a question or a call to action from your video, something you want people to answer, you're keeping the conversation going, I would be your own first comment on that video, on that post, then pin it to the top. So that way, if people are watching your video, they've read the caption, they might be opening the comments while they're watching, gives them something to do. And that way they immediately see, because they might be still listening to the video. Let's say your call to action at the end of the video is, hey, comment your credit score and I'll tell you if you'd qualify or not, right? They might not have gotten to that point in the video yet, but if their comment says, comment your credit score and I'll let you know, I might be reading that going, oh, okay, I'll comment my credit score, sure. And then you're getting comments because you've added that call to action in a more visible place instead of waiting till the end of the video. So if you haven't been doing this, this is just a great extra step that you can take. Comment a question, comment a call to action, pin that on your videos. And then you can also pin other people's comments, right? So if someone gives you like a really glowing review or a really nice comment, you can pin that as well so that that's the first comment everyone sees. It's kind of a great way to get people to want to click in more and say, oh, like everyone's hyping Jessica up in this comment section. Like, I want to see what's going on here, right? It's nice and fun, gives you some extra engagement. Okay. And then as a tip, I just put this in here, but as a tip for Social Coach users, right? How we talked about that consistency is important and taking long breaks can hurt. Well, they also let us know that scheduling your posts using third-party apps like Social Coach does not hurt your reach. Did I know this? Yes. Did a lot of us know this? Yes. Because the way I like to explain it, right? If scheduling posts hurt your content, every major brand would suffer for it, right? There is no way Nike, McDonald's, whatever, they are not posting their stuff live every day. They have this scheduled months in advance, right? So there's no way that scheduling your posts could be penalized. It would just, everyone does it. So it'd be terrible. But they did confirm, just for anyone who was worried about it, this does not hurt your reach. So please, by all means, use Social Coach, use whatever third-party platforms you like. But I think that scheduling is such a valuable tool for helping you stay consistent, right? It's so much easier to batch out 5 videos, write your captions, get them scheduled for the month, and be like, cool, I don't have to deal with this till next month. I'm happy, right? That's a lot easier than having to check in every single day or every 2 days and feel like you're constantly on that kind of hamster wheel, like Mike said, of kind of, I don't really have a plan and I keep having to check in and this gets kind of difficult. And for anyone who didn't know, we do have a calendar in the Social Coach, both the app and the desktop experience. This thing is my favorite thing ever. We made sure it's color-coded. It helps tell you what videos, what posts, what prompts, the campaigns. It all goes live so you can view it all. So definitely go check that out in your app or on the desktop because it is such a lifesaver to be able to see, oh, let me look at how many times I posted last month. Let me see what I have scheduled going out this month. And that way, if your company is scheduling any content for you, especially holiday content, or I know Camilla with her campaign, she's amazing over at APM, they'll have a lot of content pushed out and you can see what's going out. So you can say, oh, it looks like I am posting almost 3 times a week every week. There's a few gaps. Maybe I'll fill those in with some videos. Makes it a lot more motivating, a lot good. Oh, Camilla, you need a color code legend though. That's smart. We could pull that out. It's actually, if you go to the filters and you drop it down, it will tell you, oh, pink's for prompts and blue is for campaigns and whatever it is there. So it'll show you both the symbols and the colors if you drop down that filter. But I agree with you. I will let our product team know that we can pull that out so it's more visible. But love that. Yeah, if anyone wants more, has more feature ideas, we always take them. Perfect. Okay. And then last week, I'm going to cover this super briefly. I keep saying last week. It's, lifetimes, you guys. Last month, we talked about this one, and I just wanted to highlight it again for anyone who missed it. Instagram now lets you link your reels together. So that means if you have a reel and you post another one and they either talk about something similar or it's a part 1, part 2, you can now link the part 2 to the part 1. So then anyone watching part 1 now knows to jump to part 2. And vice versa, you could take the part 2 and link part 1 so that, let's say people see part 2 first, they can actually click and immediately go back to that first part and start the series from the beginning. So this is super, super valuable. I love this for series content. If you're not someone who does series content, I would recommend you start. I gave a lot of tips about it last month. But if not, the easiest way to do this is if you're talking about something, you're like, I know I've made a video on this already, and you reference it in your video, go link that video. Even if it's a year old, pull it back up and say, okay, I'm talking about a pre-qualification timeline in this video, but a lot of people ask me about pre-approval versus pre-qualification. I made a video on that. I'm going to link it here, right? Okay, now that year-old video of you explaining the difference between approval and pre-qualification, you can now link them together. Yes, so this is in the Instagram platform. Good question, Camilla. And all you have to do, you can do this before you post, or you can do this after a video has been posted. So if you're using Social Coach, what I would do, schedule all your stuff to post, and then just set a reminder for yourself later to be like, oh, I should go back in and link that, right? So you can go back into the Instagram profile and you can just edit that reel, and then you'll see this button that says edit linked reel, and then you can just label it part 2 or whatever, link that old video, and then they're tied together. And that's just really helpful for resurfacing old content, getting more eyes on it, creating kind of those series in ways that are really easy to follow, all of that. So yes, we'll definitely, I think we should be using this. Again, I talked about it a lot more in depth last month, so go catch the recap of last time if you want more details there. Other big news, Instagram is also testing links and posts, which I'd love to hear in the chat if people think this is a good idea or a bad idea, because I am conflicted. I think this is primarily going to be used for shopping. I think it's a mimic of TikTok Shop as usual. Instagram is always copying TikTok now because that's just how they stay relevant. But I'm curious to see if they'll let people link other things besides products. So if so, the use cases I would probably recommend for you guys to be thinking about are event links, right? So any of you who do those first-time homebuyer classes, anything like that, great link to be dropping in there. Also downloadable content. I know that takes a lot to make, but if your companies make it for you, if you have guides, resources, I know you have a lot probably on your website, link those things so that anyone watching the video who wants more resources has something to click on to go to. Every time on these platforms that someone clicks a link like this, it also typically boosts your post a little bit, right? It sounds counterintuitive. Most places, they don't love links, but TikTok Shop, they love when you click the link because it gets them money, right? You're buying something. So I have a feeling that's going to be how this is structured. But on the off chance, I'll give you more information as we get updated. But on the off chance, just start preparing and thinking about, ooh, are there videos I could make where I could link this kind of link to my first time homebuyer class? And if not, just make your call to action. Hey, link is in my bio. As always, go sign up for this class. You should be talking about those things anyway, right? But this is just hopefully going to make it a little bit easier. Yeah, ebooks, Camilla, definitely. All those things. That would be super nice. They're also testing something called Your Algorithm, which is where Instagram's going to let users kind of have more control over what they want to see, what content they want to see more of, and what they want to see less of. I find this super interesting. I'm curious to see how niche they're going to let this go. The main tip I just want people to be thinking about here, right, is most people probably aren't going to be like, you know what I want more of? Mortgage tips. Some people might. There are definitely those people, right? But a lot of us aren't necessarily thinking, we're like, oh, that's a very short period of time where I need really intense mortgage tips and help, right? What they probably want more, but everyone wants finance tips. Everyone wants money saving tips, right? Everyone wants that constantly. So I would just think about ways to kind of tailor your content to fit into those brackets as well. I think hyper niche content, great. But if you have every once in a while a video that you're like, this is more general money saving tips, or this is more general, which don't do anything that your banks and your compliance people would be like, you can't say because you're not a financial advisor, right? Don't take it to that level. But if you can frame these in ways of like, oh, this is something that consumers would be interested in, those news updates, right? Keeping people up to date about Fed changes or, new programs that they might not know about, all that stuff, things that people want to ask for more of. I don't know if, mortgage is going to be the thing on the top of people's minds, but if you can pivot it in a way that gets people saying, oh yeah, I'd like to see more of this, actually, your content is going to help do better. So again, this is down the line. This is not even released yet. So I'm just trying to give you guys a bit of a preview. So it's something that you can start thinking about and work into your content and your schedule so that you're kind of ahead of the curve by the time this comes out, right? So you're not sitting there like, oh man, all of a sudden, none of my content's doing well. It's like, oh, well, I've already started kind of shifting in this direction. So I'm feeling good. This is picking up my content. I'm feeling good about it. And this kind of goes hand in hand with this next update, which is this search shortcuts for Reels. So this, again, TikTok copycat feature, you probably see if you go on TikTok and you open the comments, they have this little blue, they're called blue links or blue comments, where essentially they take the keywords or the phrases that people comment and they'll turn it into a really easy search. So if you click on it, it'll immediately search that. And it's a great way sometimes for people to say, if they're like, oh, I saw this video, and people are like, are you talking about this video? And then when you click it, it takes you to a search that brings up that video, right? Nice and easy. basically, all I want you to be thinking about is that if Instagram is introducing this, this is something that can be very helpful for you in your content if you're using it intentionally. So you can see in this example, she gives a shout out to a social media expert and names her and tags her and all the things. Well, then the topic of the video that the search picks up is social media expert Lindsay Gamble. So she's inadvertently, her entire video has now been condensed to a referral or a recommendation for this other person. So that's an interesting thing. That's not always a bad thing. It can be a good thing. This is a great thing to do for your referral partners or anything. But it's a good thing to be aware of, that the keywords and the messaging you're putting in your posts will turn into those searches. So you want to make sure you're either starting with keywords that you're like, yes, I want to be showing up in these searches, or you're not unintentionally directing people away from your content into something totally different, right? And this is similar with like hashtags, right? Less is more. You want to make sure you're using really concentrated, relevant keywords instead of throwing in 30 things and hoping that the algorithm picks it up. So my other tip with this would just be to, I think that there can be a lot of value in trying to be a big fish in a small pond with this. So what I mean by that is if someone searches VA loans, how many videos show up? Probably a lot. What's the top viewed video that probably has, 1 million views maybe? If you create a video, competing with that's going to be really hard. But if you're like, hey, here is a VA benefits program for veterans who live in Kansas. Okay, now if I'm looking at VA loan benefits Kansas, you might be one of 6 videos showing up. And okay, I might watch all 6 of those videos to see what's going on. And then you might actually get a conversion out of that because you hit on the hyper niche topic rather than trying to compete with mortgage tips, home buying hacks, the things that everyone is chasing. So that's not to say don't do that content, like please, by all means. But if you can use keywords that are really specific and niche, I've seen people get success with that, where they're like, I always target keyword terms that only have like 6 videos. And then I just make sure that I put like 3 videos under those keywords, and then I dominate. And then they come to me and they ask me questions and I look like the expert. So that's a really cool tip that this will kind of exacerbate and make easier, because you'll be able to see, oh, I posted my video. This is the keywords it labeled it with. That's either what I wanted or that's not what I wanted. Let me change my next video to be better. Let me know if we have questions there. I know that one's convoluted. And again, this is not released yet. This is just in process of coming. So just good things to be thinking about as you're working on stuff. I think keywords are pretty huge. So if you're not using keywords in your content, I would start just kind of doing some searches on those platforms. Kind of look up what you would want to show up for. Be like, oh, if someone searched VA loans California, I better be showing up. Go search it. And if you're not, got some work to do. But that's a good content idea, right? So it'll make it easier for you and it's nice and fun. Perfect. And then on LinkedIn, they released some new analytics. I felt like this one was a good one to call out. They are showing you saves and sends, which is really cool. So this is kind of quieter, kind of more behind the scenes engagement. We get these metrics largely on Instagram, on Facebook, other places. LinkedIn wasn't really showing them to us. But I think this is really important because, as I talked about last month, there's a big shift right now from public engagement to private engagement, right? So there's a lot of like, oh, okay, instead of commenting and being really loud about it, I'm maybe not commenting, but I am sending this to 3 different people, right? But you may not know that, right? You'll see the share, but you don't know that I'm privately DMing it to different people. So I just like that LinkedIn has introduced this. I think this is really valuable, especially on a platform that values thought leadership, articles, analysis, insights. I think a lot of people are probably saving it and holding on to that and coming back to that information later. And you might not have been able to see that before. So just a really good indication that if you're checking this and you're seeing those saves and those shares, I always take that as a really good indication of something about this was valuable. Can I turn it into a new piece of content? Is there something else I can do with that? Should I make a video on this? Can I do a better hook? Can I reintroduce this in a different way? Because if it's resonating, it's a good thing that you want to be hitting on, right? Okay, and now we're getting back to TikTok. Hopefully that was a good break between my initial rant and the update. But as we all probably know, TikTok had a deadline that was supposed to happen mid-September. It was September 17th. TikTok was possibly going to shut down again. We all probably realized that didn't happen, which is good. I'm glad. So essentially, they extended the deadline again. I actually think that they're going to finalize it this week. Might have even finalized something today, but they are finalizing that sale. The biggest thing I wanted to call out here that matters, don't stop posting, right? If you're already posting on TikTok, keep posting. If you're not posting on TikTok, great time to experiment and get started. So I would just say take advantage of this and keep going. But the one thing I would call out is that I'm hypothesizing, and this is purely conjecture on my side, but I think that this could result in some algorithm changes. So just beware once the sale goes through. If you're seeing weird stuff happen with your content, if you're like, all of a sudden I'm getting no views, what's going on? I would just say, like, hold firm, hold steady, right? So if all of a sudden stuff starts going weird and tanking, don't assume that, oh, my content just sucks and I need to scrap everything. I mean, sometimes that might be the case, like, not to be mean, but sometimes it might be that it's not resonating. But just be aware that as the sale happens, I think there's going to be some changes with the algorithm, and sometimes that comes with bugs and glitches and things. And the big creators will definitely start shouting about it first, right? Because they're the ones who see, they're like, oh, my engagement just plummeted. What is going on? No one's seeing my videos. There's no views. So they'll definitely flag things that are going on. That does not mean stop posting. Keep posting, but just don't be freaked out if you're suddenly like, what is going on over here? It looks kind of weird. So that's just my hypothesis. There might not be anything dramatic, but I just like to warn people kind of when big changes like this go through, there is back end stuff that might impact the results you're seeing. And then the second thing TikTok did, which this is so funny to me, they put a limit on hashtags. So you can only put 5 hashtags in your post now. And this is so deliberate to me to show that hashtags are more and more useless as we go through time, right? That doesn't mean you shouldn't use them. If you're using them and you like them, I'm used to it. I'm very millennial core, right? I love a good hashtag. But they're really using those keywords a lot more than hashtags, right? So if you say first time homebuyer in your post, you don't need to put for hashtag first time homebuyer. It's already done the same thing. So this is just to say you don't ever need to overthink your hashtags. I've had a lot of people, I think even on this call, maybe it was my last call. Someone was like, I don't even use hashtags anymore. And I have not seen a single drop in engagement at all. Like, it's fine. So don't feel like you have to use them. If you like them, if you have a branded hashtag, by all means, keep it up. But I would really focus more on your keywords. And an interesting thing I've seen people do is actually just put the keywords at the bottom of their post. They'll put like keyword bar, which I could see that working. Again, it's a little bit of like a hack that I don't think it's going to skyrocket and make your post go viral, but it could just get you into a few searches that you otherwise might not have. So if you're doing a video on first time homebuyer programs in California and you forget to say the word California in your post, you can just put that as a keyword at the bottom of your post, or make sure it's in your caption somewhere. I think that's a good way to do it. So what it means for your content, don't overthink hashtags, try to use your keywords, and primarily I would really avoid using or wasting time on generic hashtags like hashtag mortgage. You don't need to do that. The algorithm's so smart, it's going to be able to read the context of your post and sort it there anyway. So you don't need to waste your time there. And the biggest thing I would make sure you're not doing is don't use irrelevant hashtags or keywords. So I've seen a lot of people where, yeah, if you wear a sports hat in your video, great thing. You'll always probably get a comment of like, go team or boo team, right? People just like to comment. Great, good for engagement. But if you put, let's say, like hashtag go Giants in your post about the San Francisco housing market, right? All of a sudden the algorithm's like, wait, is this about housing or sports? And even worse, there are 2 different Giants teams, right? In 2 different sports. So now it's like, is this about housing? Is this about baseball in California? Or is this about football in New York? And it's going to show that video to all those different audiences to try to see. And 2 of those audiences are probably going to be like, what am I looking at this video about housing in San Francisco? I live in New York. Scroll, right? And so that kills your watch time, kills your engagement. And then the algorithm's like, oh, that video wasn't very good. And it's like, no, it was probably a good video, but you showed it to the wrong audiences because I confused you with my sports hashtag, right? So just a good thing to keep in mind. It's easier to go wrong with hashtags and keywords than it is to go right. So worst case, you can try just not using anything at all. If you want to be more advanced, you can look up some keywords and make sure you're putting those in, but just make sure they're relevant so that you're not accidentally getting miscategorized and taking your own content. Amazing. Okay, that was a lot of information. Thank you all for bearing with. Now we're going to get into the fun part, which is these easy trending videos to try. And we're going to get through these quick because I know most of you probably got to jump at the top of the hour, but we're going to get through this. 4 fun ideas for you to try in this month's content, and then I'm happy to stay on for any questions afterwards. Let's go. Okay, so this first one, I'm just going to show it to you and then I'll explain it after. So here we go. Oh, hold on. Okay, if it's hard to read, essentially all it's saying is us searching for saying us searching for where it's written in our job description that we have to do reels or videos, right? So funny, relatable. I've seen a million versions of this exact one with this exact copy. What I would actually recommend you do instead is take this searching for concept and turn it into something that your clients would find more relatable, right? Because we all feel this. We're all like, yeah, where is it in my job description that I have to do social media? But your clients, they're like, okay, whatever. That's not going to resonate with them. So I would take this and pivot it. So all you do is when you film, you just film a couple clips of you looking or searching in random places, right? Under your desk, open the office door and stick your head out, check the company fridge, right? Look in a few, dump out a mug of pencils and look in the bottom of it. Just silly things, but you're searching. And then what I would do is use this format of text to add on screen. And it's me searching for blank. And I would put in probably an ideal client type there, but insert their fear or pain point that's holding them back. So I can insert you as the solution, right? So a good way of putting this is like me searching for renters who think they don't have enough saved for a down payment so that I can show them creative programs that actually make it possible, right? So what that's going to do is people are going to self-identify, oh, I am a renter who thinks I don't have enough saved for a down payment. Huh. And then they're going to either comment, reach out to you, share it with somebody. That's going to drive more engagement, right? So I like the structure, right, of this searching for, and it's funny, but I don't want to even call it a mistake. Something I see a lot of people do on social media is they use a trend and they make it relatable for them and for their peers, which in your case, right, are real estate agents, loan officers, your peers that way. What you actually want to do with these trends is make it relatable to your clients, which is a little bit harder. And I know that I think when we mimic trends sometimes, we're like, oh, that's funny. I can do that. I think it's funny. But we forget that it's like, oh, my clients might not be in the same mindset. They don't have to make reels for their jobs, so they don't think this is as funny, right? Some people will. A lot of people have to do this now, so I think a lot of people find this one in particular relatable. But for you, I would go more for that. Here's how I present a solution for these specific types of clients, and me searching for those clients. And then I think they'll be like, you found one. This video got me, like, I want some help, right? And you can do this different ways too. So take the searching for format and you could do this a million different things. Me searching for new real estate agents who want to have a referral partnership, right? Me searching for a new loan program that will do XYZ, right? You can use this in a million ways. And I would almost encourage, like, if it's easy and you have the footage already, you could just make this, put 3 different types of text on it and reshare it every couple months, and then you're good. And it's nice and easy. So there's number 1. Let's go to trend number 2. This one is called I Know Ball. And I think I'm missing the audio on this one really quick, but I'll show it to you. So the concept of this one is that you start by saying, when people think I don't know ball. Or you could say, like, when people think I don't know real estate. And it could be you on your couch, relaxed, casual, right? Something that kind of doesn't look like you know what you're talking about. But then you go, oh, believe me, I know ball, right? And then that's where you bring it back and you kind of say, here's all my just sold photos or my just closed photos or happy clients waving at me. And you make a little video or photo montage. So I thought this one was really cool. It's kind of a good way to show off your expertise, but in a way that's jumping on a trend. So it doesn't feel quite as like, look at me, I'm amazing, which you all are, but I get how that feels on social sometimes. So you just kind of start with, when someone assumes blank, and I like to add in a because I blank, right? So if someone assumes that just because I don't wear a blazer to every showing, I don't know ball or I can't sell their home, right? And then you show, I actually know ball. And you can even put like 14 listings in 12 months or whatever closed. So if you can kind of provide that before and after, that kind of what people think versus what I'm able to accomplish, that's going to be a really good dichotomy that kind of acts as that social proof for your clients, right? So again, being able to say, like, when a client thinks, you could even change this a little bit to be like, when a client thinks that just because I only have a certain number of programs, I can't save them thousands. But look, and then you show a client story or something. It's a really easy, fun format that can just give you kind of that before and after feel. And yes, Shantae's being awesome, and she's dropping the links to the audio for these. So if you want to save the link to the trending audio, those are being shared in the Zoom. And if you want them on live, if you're watching from any of our social platforms, comment audio and we'll make sure those get sent over to you so you have them. Okay, number 3. This one is so much fun. Okay, I'm going to show you this one. Okay, so essentially what this one is it's just saying, unfortunately, I do love, and then you can list out some things that most people don't love or kind of niche. So I liked this one in particular because he called out teacher edition, which I think if you're going to use this as a loan officer or an agent, kind of makes more sense. Because if you just say, unfortunately, I do love, most people are looking for really relatable things like, unfortunately, I do love smelling old books, or I don't know, like random things that people are like, me, I do that too. I didn't think anyone else did, but I do that too. So if you want to do this, but for real estate and loan officers, I would use this more as a way to show off the niche things that maybe other people in your industry don't like doing, but you actually do, right? Unfortunately, I do love rescue loans. Unfortunately, I do love running pre-quals within 48 hours. It gives me a rush or whatever, just things that will present you well to your clients, obviously, but maybe aren't something that other people necessarily enjoy. So all you do here, film 20 seconds of anything. Could be you at your desk, you golfing, you just enjoying life. And then you put the text on the screen and you just say, unfortunately, I do love, I would put that little like loan officer edition or agent edition. And then you can list relatable things that you do enjoy about your job that most people wouldn't. So I do love explaining why pre-approval is the most powerful move in the home buying process. I do love turning a stressful bidding war into a win for my clients. I do love finding programs that save first-time homebuyers thousands on down payments, even though it means a lot more paperwork, right? Stuff like that, stuff that will make people kind of go, oh, okay, that's been, yeah, okay. But it'll give them something to reach out to you and talk to you about. And I think your peers will also sit there and be like, man, you love that stuff? That's my least favorite. Okay. You know, and it kind of gets you that engagement and that conversation in a fun way. So we'll drop that audio link below. And if you have questions about how to use any of these, let me know. But these are fun. I try to find ones that I think are easy for you guys to personalize and tailor for your own content without needing to be like an expert videographer or anything like that. So we'll go to this last one. And I know I've done 2 ball or basketball related ones, but let's watch this one. Nice. So this one's so easy. The sound is essentially just 5 basketball shots being made, right? So boom, right, swish, swish, swish. So 5 different ones. So all you have to do is you take this audio. I would make sure you're playing it out loud while you film just to make sure you're on beat with it. But you play it out with a speaker and you just record yourself pretending to shoot 5 times. That's it. I wouldn't do them all at your desk, right? I would do it sheeted and kind of come up with fun ones in different spots so it's visually engaging. But you just need 5 clips. You could start at your desk, kind of turn around, boom, sync 1. Walk out of your office, boom, sync another. If you really wanted to like have fun, you could even like crumple up some paper and like pretend to be throwing it into a basket, whatever. But you're just kind of saying like easy shot, right? Easy swish. And then what you do is you put on screen text that contextualizes why that's such an easy win, right? Like, boom, nailed it, right? So when client blank and then but problem, I solution. So when a buyer comes to me thinking they can't afford a home, but I show them this loan program that saves them thousands and they close in 30 days. Swish, right? Perfect. When a refinance client thinks they missed the rate drop, but I end up locking in a rate that saves them thousands. Swish. So I would recommend you only have 1 text on the screen that stays the whole time and you do these different dunks because it's longer. So it's going to take people longer to read anyway. So you could theoretically do a different one for every swish, right? You could do like a different review or something. But the problem is it's a lot of text to read in a really short amount of time. Some people will stick and like rewatch and rewatch and rewatch until they've read them all. So it could be worth trying. But I think in general, it's so quick that I would probably just stick to one thing. But that way you can make, again, like 5 different versions of this with 5 different texts on screen. You can make a version for refinance, a version for first-time home buyers, a version for agents. You know, when agents call me in to rescue a loan and boom, like we close it with no issues, whatever. All of those scenarios that you're like, I'm good at this, I nail this. That's what I want you to do with this trend. and take it and make it nice and fun. And again, it's a great way of sharing wins, showing what you can do for clients in a way that's easy to absorb and feels relatable. Amazing. Okay, so those are our 4 trending videos, all of our updates for the month, and the content tips. I know I'm a little bit over. Thank you all for sticking with me. If you want more from Social Coach, make sure you're following us on socials. We post a weekly tip, and we have a lot of extra resources on our blog. We have a couple blog posts of 45 different post ideas to get you started. So if you want those, you can scan also to subscribe to our Huddle newsletter. We send that out every 2 weeks, and it usually comes with 2 blog posts, one from Joe, one from me, that are just, again, additional resources and trends and insights that we're noticing in the industry. So if you are on live and you can't scan this, you can also comment Huddle, and we'll be happy to follow up with you, give you the link to subscribe there. But otherwise, we do these sessions on the first Thursday of every month. So next month, it'll be the first Thursday. I think that's November 6th, I believe. So if you want to scan here, you can register to be reminded for all of them. Actually, sorry, I think my slide's delayed if I'm going to go to the next one here. But if you want to register, you can scan, and then you can add that to your calendar so that you're here for the future ones. And if you've missed any of the old sessions, we put them on YouTube. So the full sessions for the old ones are on YouTube. You can go through, if you're like, oh, I wanted to hear that bit about consistency and see that study, that's all there. You can go find that. And that way, you know what's new, what's happening, and what's worth it for your platform. Thank you all so much. I'm seeing all the love in the comments. Thank you. Really appreciate you guys. Oops. And I'm happy to answer any questions for anyone who wants to stay on, but otherwise, appreciate you guys being here, and have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you next month. Love it. And if anyone wants to sign up for boot camp, you can comment boot camp. We'll drop all the links. We are here to help. So thank you guys. Let's see. Oh, Mike, when you get a moment, can you tell us how your own channels are doing? I see you everywhere. Thank you so much. That's so nice. Our own channels, honestly, are more targeted at B2B. And because we're a very small team. So I make sure that we post at least once a week, trying to do more than that. And once we have a bit more resources and time on our hands, that will definitely elevate. So we're kind of in that bucket with you guys of, we're a small account, we're a small team, and we're trying to do more content and level up. I would certainly like to get to a 3 to 5 posts a week posting schedule, just like all of you. So I think that's where you definitely see the most growth. But for now, just like I tell all of you, whatever you can be consistent with is where you should live. And so with us, that's 1 tip every single week. Plus we get the team to post, and that helps us with reposting a lot, right? So if Joe's at a conference and if Ben's sharing a video, we can repost and share a lot of that, which ends up being closer to that 3 to 5 posts a week, just naturally. And then again, when we're like, ooh, we have team bonding days and we can get film, I love to show up with I make the team do all these ridiculous things, and we record, we batch them all, and then I have content for the next couple months. But I would also recommend, if you guys do podcasts or webinars or anything like this, if you do a first-time homebuyer class, record it, batch that up. So cut that into clips, share little clips of that, of the really juicy stuff online, and then say, hey, by the way, if you want to come to my home buying seminar, my next one's running next month, sign up at the link in bio. Boom, right? That's going to really help you guys drive some more traffic. So hope that helps. Would love to see you guys in boot camp. Charlie, I see you on Instagram. You want the audio and the boot camp link. I will send that your way right after we end the live. But thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Please let us know if you have any questions we can help answer. And as always, we'll see you in boot camp. We'll see you next month, and we'll see you on socials. So see you all there.